What qualifies me to write a book like this one? I first became involved in AML regulation while working at NASD, which is now FINRA, the primary entity that oversees regulatory compliance by broker-dealers in the United States. I was there after 9/11 when AML compliance moved from us asking, "Do you accept cash from your customers?" Which almost no broker-dealer did, maybe their bank affiliate did. And "Have you brought cash into the country recently?" Which they certainly weren't going to tell us about if they had, to having to enforce an entire regulatory structure devoted to AML compliance. Even before that regulation was passed, NASD Rule 3011 at the time, now FINRA Rule 3310, we were starting to change how we approached AML requirements. Which is why I, a young and eager examiner who liked new challenges, was sent off to Washington, D.C. for a training by our regulator, the Securities and Exchange Commission, on the basics of AML. I was then part of a team that conducted best practice exams of some of our larger members to see what they were already doing related to customer identification and suspicious activity monitoring. And then, when the new rule was passed, I conducted AML reviews as part of my routine examinations of our member firms. When I then transferred to the Washington, D.C. office of NASD and started to work in the department responsible for coordinating all of the examinations conducted by our 500 field examiners, I was assigned AML as one of my areas of responsibility. As part of that role, I rewrote the AML examination procedures used by the district offices, which means that at one point in time, every single examination for AML compliance that was conducted by NASD during routine field exams was based on the questions and procedures I had written. And because it was a very high-profile area of regulation at the time, with lots of scrutiny from outside parties, I also coordinated the disposition of all member regulation examination findings related to AML to ensure consistency of enforcement across districts. That means that for a couple of years, every single exam finding related to AML issues had to be run through me. I then coordinated discussion of those findings with a team that consisted of my department and 2 others, and we recommended back to the districts how those findings should be handled. I was also involved in discussions of other significant AML findings by other departments. And I was part of the team that drafted the initial AML small firm template, as well as its first revision. I also represented NASD when the United States had its FATF review during that period. In addition, I met quarterly with other regulators to discuss AML issues and gave multiple presentations, speeches, and trainings related to AML both internally and to our member firms. And I was one of NASD's nationally recognized experts in the area of AML. Eventually, I left NASD and went to work for a boutique consulting firm that focused on regulatory compliance issues. There, my AML work expanded to include various other financial entities, such as banks, money services businesses, and EDGE Act corporations. I was also part of AML reviews conducted in other countries, including Germany and the United Kingdom, and I helped oversee look-back projects for suspicious activity and enhanced customer due diligence. I was also the project manager for a small geographic risk assessment tool that my firm sold to financial entities. In addition, I've had some experience with sanctions compliance issues, but as we'll discuss, that's, in my opinion, a different area of regulation, although it's often handled by the same department as AML. Bottom line, I've had a wide range of experience with AML issues, both from the perspective of a regulator and from the perspective of entities trying to comply with those requirements. So that's what I believe qualifies me to cover the basics of AML compliance in this book. I will note, however, that I am not currently actively consulting on AML issues, which is part of why I want to keep this high level. The fundamentals remain stable, but the particulars can shift,